Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Chaos and Mayhem written by Lord Henry 7878. There is a link to the playlist in the doobly-doo. Chaos and Mayhem, a sexy space babes story part 12. Agent Somazdar. Rishi threw open the flap to the tent that the interior agent had declared her impromptu office. We have some bad news. She just about decapitated the agent when she shoved the omnipad into her arms. Somazdar just stared. The first message? Right. The interior agent shook herself out of her trance and tapped the text. Clever. Rishi had no idea how she was going to do this. It just seemed so dishonest. That was more the interior's usual bag of tricks, wasn't it? In fact. Agent Somazdar. Captain Rishi. Somazdar opened her human newspaper once again. I'm going to have to give you this task. It'll look more authentic if it's the interior doing it. That was only partially true. Rishi was more worried that with all her misgivings she wouldn't be able to do it.
It was 6:30 in the morning, September 3rd.
When we were finally ready. We'd been all practicing for a solid month by now. And if we weren't practicing, we were prepping. Operator Cow had made us practice the assault on the Baroness's compound until we performed it mechanically. It was, in theory, a 3-part raid on her mansion and the surrounding area, the so-called Chatelaine estate. First, one team would enter through the front. Second, one would enter from underneath, via the old tunnels running below the estate. The third part was a team of Shilvati operators who would be assisting us from afar, managing the security countermeasures. The plan was simple. Simply complex. Uncle Bill and I had stolen a number of pickup trucks and taken them to a chop shop in Baltimore. Once there, they had been armored and souped up. These would get us all onto the grounds. Other than that, we were able to call in favors and raid our stashes for weapons. We finally were going to get to use that recoilless rifle the Albanians in Baltimore had lent us. It was sitting in its crate in the back of the truck we had come to get. When we got to the shop, Uncle Bill and I went in. I went and picked up the keys for truck number 1. Since it was responsible for busting in, we were setting it in pole position. Everyone else would be by shortly, assuming no hiccups. Anyways, once we got the truck, the caravan drove off. It was a long drive up to Chatelaine. We took 97 up through Carroll County, eventually getting on 32, which would eventually take us up to Prince George's County. Once we got there we set up the recoilless rifle and threw it under a tarp. Correction, Uncle Bill set it up and threw it under the tarp. I sat there with the radio looking like an idiot. Absolutely nothing happened, then my radio crackled. It was time. Come back to base. There's been a change of plans. It was not time. Yeah, some of the Death's Heads are joining us to deal with some of the Baroness's crew. They are like ex-Death's Heads. And they didn't think to tell us this earlier. They just figured this out.
God damn it.
I snapped.
This is the third time this has happened.
It really was. Every time the Shilvati had some new piece of intelligence, they made us rewrite the whole plan to account for it.
Fucking perps.
Uncle Bill packed up and we drove back, bitching all the way. When we got back, we stormed right up to our captors, who were in the equipment tent.
What gives?
I demanded as I put all my stuff away.
You are making this way more complicated than this needs to be, Operator CAO.
Bill unloaded his guns. Cow sighed loudly. I have told you both repeatedly, we need to account for any new intelligence before we can go through with the plan.
Then how about you get better at intelligence gathering?
I snapped.
Otherwise this is never gonna get done.
Cow slapped me hard. You watch your mouth, boy. And it's going to, not gonna. I can't understand this fucked language of yours at the best of times. Uncle Bill looked about ready to break some big purple fingers.
How about you quit your bitchin' and tell us about this new intelligence of yours?
Language? Okay. We discovered the identity of the bitch in charge of Stamatios's militia.
Okay, and?
I looked at Uncle Bill. Cow had a habit of taking forever to get to the point. It's a former death's head. Specifically, Arden Vosh. She's the one who trained me. I spat out the water I'd been drinking.
How'd she end up working for the Baroness's personal army?
I put my gun back in the crate. Discharged for war crimes. Stamatios's militia likes to hire ex-military. Simple. I thought back to what I'd seen going on in the last several months. Sounds right up her alley then. Don't know if that's supposed to be a sex joke or not, but yes. They snapped her up just like that. And as the leader of Stamatios's militia, she's been the one in charge of all the shit going on here, the incident at the hospital. She told the interior shoot to kill. All the disappearances, beatings, massacres, executions. All on her. She's fucking insane. Needless to say, I'll be coming with you. Cow opened her own locker, revealing an impressive array of knives. Nobody survives a death's head but other death's heads. Uncle Bill looked on over.
Damn, CAO.
Scary. The big purple babe looked like an extra from The Night Comes for Us, aside from the obvious. Not that I was gonna let her know that.
You look like a chef.
I snickered. Fuck you. And with that, it was almost Halloween before we had another chance. We had had to change everything to allow for a knife-wielding alien, but it was finally time. We were having one of those crazy cold, wet Octobers where it was sleeting all the time. We all just shrugged like, oh Maryland, you so silly, but the Shilvati, it turned out, hated cold weather. How are you not freezing? Cow was shivering even though Uncle Bill had put on the heat as we drove back up to Chatelaine.
Because we're just that good. You good with the plan?
Despite our constant fighting, Operator Cow and I had become pretty good friends. We'd even shared a bottle of vodka last night. But not too much, it wouldn't do to be hung over while pulling off a harebrained political assassination such as this one. Anyways, we arrived, and Uncle Bill and I set up the M20. On a snowy, shitty day like this one, my grey coat blended right in. All right. Wait for the signal. And I was. I kept looking at the radio. Then it beeped 3 times. That meant that the guys in the tunnel had busted in, and we were in business.
There it is.
I yelled.
We're in action.
Uncle Bill took his place on the gun and fired the spotting rifle. Soon as we saw the tracer explode against the gate, he fired. The 75mm shell exploded against the wrought iron, and I got back in the truck. Now that the gate was destroyed, we could easily drive through. I could already see the other trucks coming up the access road, so I stepped on it.
Hold on to something.
I yelled as the truck blasted through the wrecked doors. In lieu of a sniper or mortars, we had Uncle Bill laying waste with the recoilless rifle. I could imagine him giving me the thumbs up from on top of the hill as he cleared a path for me. I slammed on the brakes as the truck crashed through the front doors of the mansion. Okay, Cow, you find Vosh and do your thing. I'm going for the Baroness. We opened the doors, and, well, they just fell off the frame. We hopped out, and were immediately surrounded by guards. They had obviously been running to deal with the armed fighters outside when we had taken them by surprise. A pair of legs stuck out from below the wheel. I pulled out my axe and swung, embedding it in the first guard's shoulder. As she hollered, I shoved with my foot, wrenching it out. Cow had gone to work, stabbing one in the neck, throwing her into her buddies, grabbing one thrown off balance and slamming her head first into a wall, and was now cracking limbs. I ducked to the side as a bolt from one of those alien guns shot by my head and swung once again. I didn't get too far into the flesh, but I'd nicked one of those batteries they used to power the guns. It was a cylinder about 2 fingers thick and about as long. As it fizzled and sparked, I kicked the injured alien into the adjoining hallway and pulled out a pistol I'd found. When I shot the damaged battery, the resulting explosion set off the others. Everyone in the hall was fried or blown out the window into the fighting outside. Cow had shown us that. Then I saw a figure step out of the smoke. "Thomas," Cow warned. "Run. The Baroness is still alive."
We're in action.
I ran for it.
As the human ran for it,
Cow pulled out her knife. Arden Vosh was here. "Well, look who it is," Vosh teased. "I remember you. It's good to see you again, teacher." And it was. In all her time as a death's head, Cow had looked up to the older woman. She'd been devastated when Vosh had been brought to trial for war crimes. "Isn't it a common thing in human storytelling?" Cow asked, "where the student becomes the master or something? Ironic, isn't it?" Vosh pulled out her own blades. She'd been the reason Cow was so good with knives. "Here we are on this crazy, crazy fucking world, with these crazy, crazy fucking aliens, and look at us. We're acting like the heroes from their stories. It is crazy, but Cow had a job to do. I'd love to stay and chat, but let's kill each other instead." "Yeah." Arden kicked a piece of skull at Cow. Cow reflexively ducked to the side, barely bringing up her knife in time to block her former teacher's swing. The 2 deadliest beings in the house both stood there, knives locked, pushing. And try as Cow may, Vosh's knife was getting closer. It was inches from her eye when she kicked Vosh in the side of the knee. Any normal Shilvati would have been felled by that, but to a death's head, pain was a sign that one should take some painkillers and visit the medic after the job was done. Vosh stood unsteadily for a moment before lunging at Cow, swinging this way and that before delivering a spinning kick to the younger operator's head. As Cow ducked under the kick, she plunged her blade into the older woman's calf. Instead of going down, Vosh regained her footing and kneed Cow in the face. Her mask took most of it, but she was still caught by surprise when Vosh tackled her, sending both women sailing into the kitchen. Cow didn't know what had happened, but there was a terrible pain in her little finger. She looked. Vosh's blade had cut into it. It was mostly gone, hanging only by a scrap of flesh. Cow closed her hand around the digit. One quick yank, and it was gone with barely a grunt. She could get that replaced later. Both operators regarded each other a moment. Cow grabbed a meat tenderizer and threw it at Vosh's head. Then she threw a steak weight. Then a pot. All 3 missed as Vosh rapidly closed the distance between the 2 of them and grabbed Cow's head. Cow saw stars as her former mentor slammed her head against the table by the stove. She felt around with her hand and eventually grabbed a pot of something that had been left bubbling on the stove when the cooks ran for it. She threw it at Vosh. The older woman screamed bloody murder as the boiling liquid spilled over her, burning the purple flesh a bloody blue color. Fighting the pain, she grabbed Cow, throwing her up over the stove against the wall. Cow did some screaming herself as she landed on the hot stove, rolling off. Soon as she hit the floor, Vosh's foot came down on the back of her head. She felt her nose break as her face slammed into the floor. The next hit came to her burnt back. Cow cried out as pain shot through her. What was that she saw there? Oh shit! The steak weight. She grabbed it, swinging it into Vosh's already busted knee. This time her leg gave with a crack, making the commando drop to her knees. Cow took her chance as she got shakily to her feet. She kicked Vosh's head against the oven, shattering the glass and knocking a tusk loose. As Vosh got up, Cow was too quick for her crippled teacher. She grabbed the former operator's head, slamming her face down on the deli slicer. As the machine started, Cow shoved Vosh's face into the blade. Cow thought she was desensitized to violence, but these screams were gut-wrenching. The workstation was splattered blue as strips of flesh were peeled away. At least until Vosh bonked her in the head with a block of cheese. Cow was surprised, to say the very least, and fell on her ass, back by the oven. She picked up a piece of glass and stabbed it into Vosh's side. As Cow stabbed, Vosh started to cough up blood and black fluid. This was good. For Cow anyways. She wrenched the glass out and stabbed again and again. Once she yanked the impromptu weapon to the left, organs spilled out. She stabbed at the vein above Vosh's collarbone, then spun, jumping and delivering a vicious kick to the side of Vosh's head. The older Death's Head Commando's skull slammed into the edge of a metal cabinet, and she keeled over, skull cracked open. She flopped to the floor, brain matter spilling out, joining an almost impressive splatter of blood and viscera. And that was it. There was a human product that Cow loved, cigarettes. She fished one out now and stuck it in her smashed mouth, lighting it. She couldn't believe that her former teacher was dead. Hell, she couldn't believe her orders were the ones that had led to the events at the airport. But that was over now. Perhaps peace in Maryland was possible. There was a prayer that the Death's Head Commandos said over their fallen. Far gone as Vosh had been, it still felt right to say it for her. I am death, Cow intoned, well as she could. And I come for all. I am life, I am the nothing and the everything. I consign you, Arden Vosh, to what may lie beyond. And with that, she closed Arden Vosh's eyes for the last time. She only hoped Tom was having an easier time. End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode, and do all the other YouTube stuff. Visit and support the author. All the relevant links are in the doobly-doo, and comment your opinions, good or bad. And I'll see you next time. And as usual, have a wonderful day.